I wanted to dedicate a little bit of today's show to the study of Jesus Christ, because there's so much disinformation out there about Jesus, whether he existed, whether he didn't exist, whether it's all an analogy for a sun-solar cult of the past. And I wanted to examine these things from the Vedic perspective. So the first part of the show, I'd like to look at the life and the precepts of Jesus from the Vedic perspective. Now, again, we have to remember that there's two types of knowledge. There's the inductive method, which modern science is based on the inductive method, where there are observations that are done, then tentative hypotheses are formed, then experimentation is performed, and ultimately there is a thesis or a theory that comes out of that. And as we've discussed in previous shows, that this type of method of gathering knowledge is fraught with difficulties because of the human propensities to, 1, commit mistakes, 2, to become illusioned, 3, to cheat and to be cheated by others, and 4, by the impact of our limited, imperfect senses. So the inductive method is fraught with many difficulties, especially when it comes to matters spiritual, because often these are not easily observable, but it's more something that we can sense with our intuition, our mental faculties, our understanding of the difference between right and wrong. So it dwells in matters that are as real as the physical world, but are on a more subtle platform that cannot be readily studied through the scientific or inductive method. And so the proposal of the Vedas is the deductive or descending method of knowledge, whereby we hear from authority. And I've given the example before that it's very difficult for me to know on my own who my father is, even if I tried to do some type of scientific research on the matter and DNA testing. It would be more or less impossible if I had no idea in the beginning who my father was, to go test every man to see if I could come up with some type of match, all the possibilities of getting a false match. But if I just hear from the authorized source of knowledge, my mother, then I automatically, the knowledge is there as to who my father is, and it's very reliable. So this is the essence of the Vedas, is that true knowledge can be determined through what's called shruti, or hearing from bona fide, authorized sources. So as far as studying the life of Jesus Christ, I can give so many speculations, so many different theories, and we could go on eternally speculating about the position of Jesus Christ, who he was, if he existed, was it really just a reference to some solar cult? Is it all become just a diversion for mankind? But if we understand the history of the Vedas and the great line of devotional masters, and this is one of the important points that I've spoken about previously too, that the important point of the Vedic perspective is that there are many ancient wisdom systems of knowledge, and all of them can offer a lot to mankind. But the Vedic perspective is unique in that there is an unbroken line of teachers for the past 5,000 years. And the Vedic line is often called the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya, because it originated with the creator of the universe, Lord Brahma. One of the great preceptors during the medieval times was Madhva Acharya, one of the stalwarts of Vedic knowledge. And then the line descended into the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or the Bengali Vaishnavas of India. And this line is current up to today, with the final link in the chain of masters in Bhaktivedanta Swami, who has given voluminous purports to the Vedic texts for modern man, so that it's understandable in today's language, and how the ancient knowledge is relatable to today's world. So this is very important, that we're getting knowledge from a reliable source, and that knowledge through the ancient masters is current up to today. And we always have to remember that when we speak of spiritual masters, it doesn't mean that they're the master of the people or the master of the disciple, but they are the masters of the knowledge. So this isn't about lording it over anyone or trying to one-up anyone or some type of system of domination, but rather it's a system of helping people and a system of great masters who have conquered the spiritual knowledge. And so we're going to look at the life of Jesus and the precepts of Jesus through the descending method, hearing from authority, through the current link, Bhaktivedanta Swami, in an ancient line of teachers that goes back 5,000 years in the Vedic perspective. So the first reference I'd like to give is in the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, chapter 11, verse 55, purport. The chapter is entitled The Universal Form. Purport by Bhaktivedanta Swami. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Now, when we hear the name Krishna, we have to remember what that means. Krishna means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the word Krishna more specifically means the reservoir of pleasure and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everyone would like to be linked with the reservoir of pleasure. We don't like to suffer in this world, as I mentioned previously, the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. Rather, we'd like to spend our time enjoying with our friends and family and finding love and happiness and community. So this is what Krishna means. It means the reservoir of all the pleasures that we can experience. And just one drop from this reservoir is more powerful than all the material pleasures that we can experience in this world. So remember that Krishna is not some dogmatic name of God, that it actually means the reservoir of pleasure and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the secret of the Vedas about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always remember the secret that there are two. There's female and there's male, and by their union they create. And actually, so when we refer to Krishna, we're actually referring to Radha Krishna, the divine feminine and the divine male personalities who are the creators of all the material and spiritual universes and all the living entities that reside within them, that we, in our natural condition, are part and parcel of the Godhead, and that when we return to our eternal function, just like with the hand has to work in cooperation with the body. If I take some foodstuffs and smash it up in my hand, the body will not get the nourishment and the nutrition it needs from that foodstuff. But rather, if the hand cooperates by bringing the food to the mouth and then to the digestive system, that energy and that nourishment will be distributed throughout the entire body, and ultimately the hand will be able to function properly. So right now in the material world, we're kind of like the hand trying to mash up the foodstuff within the hand and to get the nourishment in that way. But in our original constitutional position as part and parcel of Godhead, we serve the function that we were destined to, that we were created and destined to be, in that we are serving the universal whole, that we are serving the other living entities in a spirit of pleasure and enjoyment. And it is more like the hand giving food to the mouth for the digestion and the distribution throughout the entire body, whereby the hand can also flourish. That is our natural constitutional position as part and parcel. So remember that when we speak the name Krishna, what all it means. It means the reservoir of pleasure. The secret meaning is that it means the divine female and male aspects of Godhead. And so I'll go ahead and continue reading. Therefore, it is said that he has no enemy. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce this system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord risking their lives for the spreading of God consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India, there are many examples such as Thakur Haridas. Why such risk? Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, and it is difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now, we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. So here is our first hint of the Vedic perspective of the life and teachings of Lord Jesus Christ. So here, Bhaktivedanta Swami who is a great scholar of all religions, and he knows perfectly well all the history of the Christian religions, the changes to the Bible, the problems fraught within the materialistic system of the Christian dogma that has become the Christian church. But here he is speaking about the personality of Jesus, that he was crucified by the non-devotees, and he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. So here it is admitted in the Vedic perspective that Christ did exist, that he was a great teacher of Vedic wisdom, that he was crucified, and it says, of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. So also, it indicates that there was a resurrection of Jesus. Now, again, in the Vedic perspective, this would not be something very unusual or impossible to understand, as nowadays the materialistic people and the hidden hand manipulators, they make this out to be such a big thing about how could anyone believe that somebody would be resurrected. I mean, this is just fantasy, mythology stuff, and this is just for the foolish, ignorant. Although if they would delve into their scientific method and the beliefs of the science and that we're part of multiverses and that there are different intersecting universes, that, you know, there's so many, that by observation, the very materialistic matter that they study, that having a human observer actually changes the physical properties of matter, and so many different amazing things that, you know, are at the essence of the scientific method. So they are also believing in many different kinds of miracles, many different kinds of different alternative realities that can't be perceived. But still, they make a big point about the resurrection. But in the understanding of yogic masters, that this would be nothing for them to do, that to slow down their breathing, to completely take on the appearance of being dead, or even, and then to, at a later time, resume their breathing, this would be nothing for a yogic master. This is child's play for them. So I wanted to cite that as the first example of the Vedic perspective on Jesus Christ. I'm going to cite a few examples so that we can get a more of a rounded view of the Vedic perspective on Jesus and delve into some more elements of his personality and his teachings.